And do we have him? Yes, I think we do. He was a coach in the National Hockey League with the Montreal Canadiens as well as the Quebec Nordiques. You've seen him in the media in this market for many, many years. We welcome into the program former Montreal Canadiens head coach, Jean Perron. Hello, Mr. Perron. How are you?
Fine, yourself?
Very good. Thanks for taking some time tonight.
Oh, that's my pleasure.
Now, first of all, how did the golf tournament go today at Meadowbrook?
Yeah, we had a good time. I was paired with Mike Owen, that you know, and two policemen. The commandant of Côte Saint Luc and his assistant Jean Pierre and Sylvain. So that was a great day. The weather was nice, and I think all the proceeds went to the CLSC of Côte Saint Luc. So that's why Alan Maislin came. Alan Maislin is, I think, the chairman of the CLSC and Côte Saint Luc. So that was for a great cause.
Well, obviously we bring you on to talk some hockey, and certainly it's been a very eventful offseason for the Montreal Canadiens. A lot of changes to come still, I'm sure. I wanted to get your thoughts on the recent story of Larry Robinson and how he now ends up with San Jose. And you, of course, had a chance to coach Larry here in Montreal, and so well loved by the fans. In your opinion, is it a big miss for the Canadiens to not have him behind that bench as an assistant?
There's no question about it. If you have a chance to sign Larry Robinson, as a player or as a coach, you do it in a heartbeat, because Larry Robinson has been head coach in the National Hockey League, has been a great assistant coach. You just look at the defensemen that the Devils had this year. There was no doubt that this team at the beginning of the season didn't belong in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they did because of Larry. There's no question that Larry turned those also-ran defensemen, in a group of good, very good defensemen. I was very, very impressed. And as most of the Canadian fans, I was upset when we didn't get Larry Robinson back behind the bench in Montreal, because he would have been a great fit, with Markov, and especially a guy like Subban.
Jean Perron joining us here on the program, GamePoints with Matthew Ross, as we talk about the Canadiens. How have you liked the move so far by Marc Bergevin? The signing of Colby Armstrong, certainly Brandon Prust, and then obviously all of the coaching staff and player development signings. We were pushed around in the last few years. I never liked this kind of club that we had. It was too soft. Was a bunch of great skaters, but we missed that grit, that all the teams in the National Hockey League possess on the third and the fourth line. And this year it's going to be much different. A guy like Prost, with Eller, with I'm just forgetting the name that we just signed. He was a free agent this year. Armstrong?
He played for the Canadiens last year.
Oh, Travis Moen.
Travis Moen.
Yes.
Yeah. And now you have White, and you have the other guy, Armstrong. I'm going to tell you, we won't be pushed around, at the Bell Center. So this is a big difference from last year. Now we just missed a left winger, to go on the first two lines, and we'll be all set.
Can they do anything with Rene Bourque, a guy who scored, had a couple of good seasons in the NHL, but certainly has some deficiencies in his game and isn't consistent enough? He obviously has also been suspended for a few incidents. Can they do something with him? Can he be a productive player for them?
You know what? I'm still a little bit worried about this guy. I always liked Rene Bourque when he came to Montreal. He played for the Flames. He was all over the place. I had great games against the Canadiens. So I was expecting Bourque, to do the same thing for the Canadiens. But
he was he was a strange hockey player. One good game and all of a sudden he disappear. He was a little bit like Gomez, kind of a guy that you can't read. But at this age, because he's still a young player, you should be able to deliver, at least one game out of two. But to disappear for 2 or 3 games in a row, it's not normal. So I don't know if it's a kind of Pouliot, because Pouliot was that kind of a player too. Don't forget,
sure.
And all of a sudden he goes to Boston, and he had a good season last year. So a guy of his age, of his talent, if he puts his heart at the right place, with an assistant coach that he likes, push the right button to a guy like him, with the size he's got and his skills, we might be surprised, because we don't score 25, 27 goals, with a lock. You got to have skills in the National Hockey League. So
yeah.
I don't know if we could drop this guy, like a nobody. I think he's got something else, in him that we haven't found. So maybe we should be a little bit more lenient towards this guy. I think he's got something left in him.
All right, final question for Jean Perron, former coach of the Montreal Canadiens, as we get ready for what's going to come next for the Canadiens. Your thoughts on Michel Therrien getting a second chance with the Canadiens? What should we expect from him? Anything different, do you think, this time around in terms of his coaching style?
Michel has got, like we said, a hot temper, right? Michel has got to relax a little bit more. I think he knows what he did wrong, in Montreal in the first place, and what he did wrong in Pittsburgh. Now it's up to the coaching staff and the GM, especially the GM, Bergevin, to calm him down when he gets overboard, because there's no question that Michel Therrien is gonna be a totally different coach than Jacques Martin. In the first place, you're going to see Michel Therrien waiting for the visitors. Nobody is going to push the Canadiens out of the building like we've seen in the last few years. So Michel is going to have his team well prepared, but at one point, if things don't go right, he might see blue instead of red. So you got to be careful. So Bergevin knows him. I think he was coached by Michel Therrien at one point, eh? So Bergevin knows him, so he knows which button to push, to make sure that Michel doesn't make those statements that he did in like he made in Pittsburgh, because the way players react today, it's totally different. They're part of that X generation or the Z generation. I don't know how you call it. When they're not pleased with the coach, they say, "Hey, I'm going to play somewhere else." So if we want to win something in the next few years, we got to keep the core of this team together, and it's up to the coach to make sure that it's going to happen.
Jean Perron, former coach of the Montreal Canadiens, thank you so much for your time this evening. Enjoy the rest of the summer. I hope that you have a few more nice days for golfing.
There's no question. It's the forecast is great, so I'm gonna enjoy myself on the golf course.
Merci beaucoup.
Ça fait plaisir. Bye-bye.
All right, there you go. That's Jean Perron, former coach of the Habs. Always interesting to hear his thoughts in either language. It's Game Points here on TSN 990.